Hey, Parkinson's fighters. It's Zach with the Parkinson's Gym. Today we're going to talk about a depressing topic. We're going to talk about depression. it's this is near and dear, I guess, to my heart. I've told my boxers here that I deal with this, but I'll tell you now. So I have depression. I constantly struggle with depression. And from what I can tell, I always have. I mean, I started noticing, well, when I look back, I noticed that my high school days is where it started to set in. And I thought I was just sort of dark and moody and twisted, but it turns out that's when things started turning for me in terms of depression. So I went through a lot of my life not realizing what was going on. And when I got out of the military, I went into a civilian world and stopped exercising because I was so busy. At the exact same time, we had the boys. And so we started a family. I'm in this high-pressure job. I didn't have time to exercise or do anything for myself. So I started to slide. My weekends were terrible, just terrible. I was drinking, I was fat, I was weak, I was terrible to people, I didn't have any friends. And I finally broke down and got some help. And the first thing my psychiatrist said, one of the first things, was, "Are you still exercising?" And I said, "No, I got too much to do." And she said, "You got to get back exercising." So I did. And that was my road to recovery. And now I know that exercise is a huge part of my keeping depression at bay. And I take medication and I do therapy, but the exercise is crucial. And just a little while ago, I let it slip again. I had too many clients, too much going on, and was not exercising. And again, I fell off the edge. Maybe that's not the best term. But anyway, looking at my depression, now that I'm not in a depression, it's almost like looking at another personality. When I'm depressed, I have a hard time seeing how I could be happy. And when I'm happy, I have a hard time looking back and going, how did I get so depressed? So it's very strange. It's hard to understand if you've never had any kind of depression, and it's difficult to explain if you do to people that have not. So essentially what causes depression is an imbalance of some chemicals in your brain, usually serotonin, norepinephrine, or dopamine. All right, that should ring some bells for you. So I always wondered whether or not depression, due to lack of dopamine, was associated with having Parkinson's or getting Parkinson's, because I take a dopamine reuptake inhibitor, and my dad had Parkinson's. So I've asked and everybody says, "Oh, no links." I just have a hard time believing that. But that may be the chicken or the egg, or it's 20/20 hindsight. Either way, it's not a big deal. Well, it is a big deal, but I can't seem to get any straight answers. It's a huge deal. That was a terrible thing to say. Anyway, treatment for depression. And I've been through all of them. I've been to talk therapy. I've been to all different kinds of therapies. I've taken all different kinds of medication. So there definitely is medication. And don't ever take one or two of a brand or a type and say, well, the medicine's not working for me. I probably have taken 10 different kinds until I found what works for me. And I read a book about a guy who took 30 different kinds of medicine and just struggled and fought and struggled and fought until he found what works for him. So there are hundreds out there, sometimes hundreds of the same type of medicine. But keep trying. And don't fall for this pill shaming that's going around. Vitamins and exercise really help, sure. But in many cases, that's not enough. And you'll know. And if you get help, a good psychiatrist will be able to tell you the difference too. In my mind, there's two different kinds of depression. There is a obvious event-based depression, such as loss of a job, death of a loved one. It's some big event in your life that is the focus that you just can't seem to stop talking or thinking about. You can't get it out of your head. And I call that target lock. You're so focused on that single event, you can't stop thinking of it. And it just continues to drag you down and down and down. So that's essentially a temporary. But then there's chronic depression, which is what I believe I have. And I think it is a just basic unbalance of the chemicals in my brain, because if I let them go, if I stop taking my medication, even if I'm doing all the happiest crap in the world, I still fall into a depression. It's a team. You have medication, you have exercise, you have family, and you have therapy, and they all have to work together for this to come through. At least for me, I'm talking. I haven't experienced anybody else's life, so I can only talk from my experience. But like I was talking about, exercise is huge. Exercise gives you a break away from that target lock. It allows a basic resetting of your body chemicals in a natural way. It gives you time to think about something else. It forces you to, because like with boxing, if you're thinking about something else, you're going to get hit or you're going to mess up your combo. With many sports, if you start thinking about something else, you're going to goof up the sport. So it makes your brain disengage from the situation that may be dragging you down. It also is thought to release dopamine and some of the serotonin and norepinephrine, release those neurotransmitters to help rebalance things. They equate the effects of exercise to shock therapy. You get the same reaction from shock therapy, electroconvulsive therapy, that you do from exercise. Now, I don't know that many people are going to say, I'd rather have shock therapy. So exercise has much better side effects. So let's stick with that. There's also, during exercise, a brain-derived growth factor, a neuro growth factor is released. And it used to be thought that you only had a certain number of neurons, and that's all you ever got, and you weren't going to get more. And now we realize that certain exercises, certain things help regrow neural brainy parts. I don't know what to call them. New connections in your brain that actually encourages brain growth within your brain. And this is important for people with Parkinson's and for people with any kind of neurological disorder, because it can build bridges over some of the damage. At least that's how I see it. Is the exercise intentionally jams up the highways, the main routes of travel, and we are forced to find shortcuts and detours, and that's where the new connections are made. If you're really digging this and you're really interested, there's a book called Spark by John Ratley, the doctor, and I read it, and it's all about what exercise can do for your brain. And it's very, very good. They talk about anxiety and depression and learning and ADHD and a whole bunch of other cognitive disorders that are helped by exercise. Very, very interesting book. So that's depression. What do you do when you feel yourself slipping? And how do you know when you're slipping? That is dependent on each individual. You've got to know when it's coming. And you have to ask for help. And that is the hardest thing to do. You have to ask, because people aren't going to ask you. The best depressives, people with depression, are best at hiding it. So you have to know what's going on and say, hey, I don't feel right. I need help here. I need to do something about this. You have to. You cannot let your situation, your temporary situation, take over and start guiding your long-term thoughts, because it changes. Just like I said, that alternate personality, you can look back and think, what was I thinking? It's not that bad. It's hard to believe. And granted, I don't have Parkinson's. I'm not coming from that exact perspective, but I know when I was at death's door, and I have been, I was on the brink of suicide. I had to try to step away and say, what am I doing? I beg you that if you are ever in a situation, if you ever catch yourself making a plan, that should raise the biggest red flag in the whole world, is call me. Call someone. Start telling someone what's going on. It's very difficult to explain this, but the depression can drag you down, and when you're through it, when you're past it, you'll look back and go, what was going on? So that is my take on depression, at least for now. Again, I am always here. If you ever have any concerns, please call me or text me or PM me in Facebook and ask. Reach out. Life is not awful. And that's what your brain may be telling you, but life is not awful. It does not have to be. Okay. All right. I know I didn't cover it all, but I hope this helps. And we'll keep doing it. All right. Get out there. Go get them. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.